Hello again, Melina.
Hello.
You're one of my favorite guests here on this channel.
You're definitely my favorite interview partner.
Well, that sounds like
Definitely.
a good combination. Um,
Yes.
I'm making a video with you this time because registration will soon open for a very interesting encuentro you have, and one that I visited last year. And I would like to talk a bit about the concept of this encuentro and yeah, other things related to it with you. So can you maybe give a very short summary of what this is all about, and yeah, maybe even a bit about yourself for people who have never heard of Melina Sedó, which I cannot imagine, but I guess there's always
Oh,
some
yeah.
people.
Yeah, okay. My name is Melina. I've been teaching tango since 2001 in Europe, but also in the United States. I teach close embrace social tango together with my partner Detlef. And we've also been organizing tango events since 2002 also, but we formed a group together with our friends, the Tango Combinat, and together we've been organizing events since 2004. And we've been quite big in promoting the format of encuentros milongueros. So we were amongst the first who organized encuentros in Europe, and we've been doing that since 2008 around. So I've been around for quite a couple of years, and I'm glad that I'm still here.
Yes, but some things have changed since then,
Yes, a lot of
and
things have changed.
the concept of this encuentro is definitely something that is along with the times, so to say, um, in contrast to some of the more traditional setups.
Indeed. So what we're talking about here is our Festivalito Milonguero Dos Corazones, which will take place on the first weekend of January in next year. It's already the third edition. And yes, it's going to be, when you look at it from the outside, first glance, it's a normal encuentro. We have four milongas and an after party. We have two small workshops, but of course, no demos or live music, just really dancing to wonderful traditional music in tandas and cortinas, super DJs and everything. What is special about is that it is an encuentro for double role dancers. And why that? Because the thing is, I am a double role dancer, which of course a lot of people know, and a big promoter of the idea to teach both roles from the beginning and also to open encuentros for double rollers. And Detlef and I, we've been using role change for quite a few years now in most of our teaching formats, and many of our students are double rollers. And they also come to our regular encuentros. But the problem is that at the regular encuentros, we cannot admit more than, let's say, 15 or 20% of double rollers, because if you would, then our more, let's say, traditional clients would start to complain. So there is a limit. But so many of our students are now dancing both roles. And I think it is a super important thing in general. So a couple of years ago, I had this idea to organize a new encuentro for double rollers alone. And of course, people who are not double rollers may also join, but in this case, it's basically the other way around. We have a small percentage of people who dance only one role who are admitted to this format, but all the rest are dancing both roles. And when we initiated this new event, I was very curious about who would show up, because of course I said we have a lot of our students in all over Europe and also in the United States who come to our events, who already dance both roles at our encuentros. So the first idea was, of course, to organize something for them, but then we would also wanted to attract people to the encuentro format who did not yet go to such events. Why? Because encuentros very often have a reputation of being old-fashioned and stuffy and, maybe a little bit formal. People who do not go to encuentros always think, and then there are people sitting there in rows, one side the men, one side the women. And that might be the case in some encuentros, but of course not in all encuentros. In our encuentros, we have mixed seating. It's very informal. It's a very relaxed atmosphere. And so this is something where we wanted to include people who are already double rollers, but who have not yet discovered the encuentro community. So we bring together people who come from the encuentro community and people who come from other communities. And I think the very first edition of Dos Corazones was a big success, but you were not there.
No,
Uh,
unfortunately. I hadn't heard of it, but
Yeah, yeah, the first edition, I already liked it a lot because people usually give us the feedback for our events that they are very friendly and casual, but Dos Corazones was, I think, even more friendly, even more relaxed, because everyone in the room uh, could see everyone else as a potential dance partner. So there was not so much, competition going on in the room. And I think this contributed a lot to the very relaxed ambience. And people came from all over Europe. A couple of people came from the United States. So it was still a small event. It was around 120 participants. And of course, for this very first edition, the majority were women. This was to be so accepted, I
expected.
said,
Actually,
expected,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
expected. Um, but for us, this was not a problem because no one had to sit, everyone was dancing, and there's still one moment that is a lot in my mind because before the first Milonga, we organized something that we call the Encuentro Boot Camp. It's sounding a little bit martial, but it is not. It's just 1 or 2 hours in which we talk about the embrace, in which we talk about the ronda, and how a so-called traditional event works, how it also works with inviting by Mirada and cabeceo if you're a double roller. So we practice all that stuff. But we started the event with a big ronda of hugging. So everyone was hugging everyone else, and and this was so nice. People connected instantly so deeply to each other that there were really tears coming. Tears were flowing both because connections were already made that went so deep that people were really emotional about it. And this was such a wonderful start for the entire event. I think it changed the entire setting and the entire atmosphere of an event, starting with embraces already. Everyone embracing everyone else, no matter of their role, no matter of their gender or whatever. Really inclusive. I loved that a lot. So
Yes, yes. Because tango can be a bit based on groups sometimes, like groups of people, circles already knowing each other. And it sounds like a good idea to at least get people socially connected so that they can get a more fair chance of maybe getting some dances. Of course, nobody is obliged to dance with someone,
of
but
course not.
it can really. I know from experience that it's really important to know people, even though like sometimes you're just invisible. I'm not talking about encuentros per se, but just tango in
Yeah, of
general.
course.
That people can be so like focused on the people they already know that even if you say hello once, you're somehow included immediately. Whereas
Exactly.
if you didn't say hello or just try to cabeceo, they would not see you literally. So it's kind of weird. Um, but what surprised you a lot about this? Not what surprised you, but what was new about this event that you already. I mean, that you also included people who were not traditionally like milonguero, encuentro milonguero people.
Yeah, this was, of course, a little bit of a new mixture because we had people coming from, let's say, different communities. Also, a lot of people coming from the Totally in Tango community who do a really good job in including double rollers and organizing events for double rollers. I'm going to be at one of their events in Berlin as well. And the organizers of Totally in Tango came as well, but also people from the queer tango community came, and from all kinds of different communities. So this is also why it was so important for us to have, this boot camp in the beginning to set some ground ideas about how our events usually function. Because for us, the focus of events is really, the close embrace, the respect for invitation by Mirada, cabeceo, also having a respect for ronda, and this is really, it's so much in the focus that we want to communicate all of this already in the beginning. And I think it worked really nicely, especially also with the invitation process. Of course, in the first encuentro, or in the first version of Dos Corazones, the ronda was not yet as ideal as it would have been in a normal encuentro, but this was to be expected. Um, and this is also something that has to change over a time now. I've talked to experienced leaders in the encuentro community, and some of them have a little bit of a hard time adapting to role changing within one tanda. This is one factor that at the moment still disturbs rondas a little bit, because even if the double rollers itself dance very nicely in the ronda, if they take really care about that, um, for the person who is leading behind them, and this doesn't matter if they are double rollers or not double rollers, they don't have the time to adapt to the leader in front of them. You know how that is. When you dance behind someone in a ronda, you focus on the leader who's basically dancing in front of you. You get to know this person over the course of a tanda. During the first song, maybe you do not know yet how this person moves, and you're a little bit more defensive, but then you know how this person moves, and you're going to go with the flow a little bit more. When you have double rollers who change in between songs or after two songs, or sometimes they even change within a song, then the leader behind them does not have that chance to adapt so much to the couple in
Hmm.
front of them. And that creates a little bit more insecurity in the beginning. And I think this is something that everyone in the tango community will have to get used to over the time. Right now, we are in a process of people adapting to this other dynamic, and I think it's working nicely, but it is something that is relatively new for a lot of people. So it is something that we have to integrate little by little into the encuentro setting. Although, as I said, we already have a lot of double rollers in our encuentros, but other encuentros or even other marathons do not have so many double rollers. So many of the leaders are still a bit startled when they're dancing behind a double roller. So this is something um, that, of course, contributes in the beginning of this phase now to a ronda that is not yet as perfect as another ronda can be. We have to face this. But that's, as I said, for me, this is not a problem because we're working on such stuff. In the beginning, when encuentros were created, there was no ronda to speak of. The first encuentros milongueros were complete chaos on the social dance floor. It took years. It took years to get really proper rondas going. So all of this is always a process of, adapting to a new situation. And I'm not worried about that.
Yes, yes. So then, talking about the second edition, which was the early this year in January. Um, so some things were already different.
Yes, yes, of course. I mean, the thing is, we had again a different mixture of people. Some people came back, but we also had new participants who had not been there the previously year. So we again had the encuentro bootcamp in the beginning to set all the shared philosophy of our event. But there were a couple of things that already were very different. Number one, at Dos Corazones, the first edition, we only had 1/5 of male participants. This is, of course, not a lot. In Dos Corazones 2, we already had 1/3 of male participants. So I think this is a big difference already. Much more men in the room. This changed also the ambience a little bit. I also think that the ronda got a little bit better. I cannot say if this comes from the fact that there were more experienced leaders there, who were then, of course, very often guys because they had been leading for a longer time than some of the women who might have only taken up leading more recently. I cannot tell, but I found the ronda already much better. We're still working on that. It's a process in work, as I said. And I think also the second edition was of course already more of a fixed community. The entire double role community is kind of moving together because for the first version of Dos Corazones we had basically you have the double rollers who come from the encuentro community and you have others who come from other communities, and there were two different sets of people, although everyone was dancing with each other, but it felt a little bit like, okay, these are two different sets of subgroups. But in Dos Corazones 2, I thought it was already another step towards creating a more, universal double role community. Not just having, the queer tango community and the double role community and the encuentro double rollers, but having
So
one set of people.
how did you notice that? What was
I
different?
noticed I noticed that because number one, you could already tell that people knew each other more. There were more people
Ah,
who knew each other. And I also thought that the process of invitation and going on to the ronda was more smooth. It was not when you go to a new event that is completely unformed yet, you always have this super huge excitement in the beginning. And the excitement is a good thing, of course, because people are happy to be in a new place and everything, but excitement also creates more chaos in the beginning, especially on Friday evening at an event. And if people know each other a little bit more and they come to a setting where they had already been in that room, or they know a couple of people who are in that room, they are less excited. And as I said, it's always a double-sided sword because excitement is good, but it's also, as I said, it's creating chaos. So people were a little bit calmer, They were just a little bit calmer because it felt like, yeah, now we've settled into that thing. We already know what those corazones is. It's not completely unknown to us. And that was also a very nice ambience. It was different from the very first. I liked it.
yes. So, talking about the second edition, so what else got your attention?
Um, so I talked about, oops, did not see you, enemy. Yeah, I've talked, of course, about having more guys in the room. This was, of course, on the one hand, super nice. On the other hand, it created again a little bit more of competition, you know because when we have more leaders in the room, or let's say more people who have been leading for a longer time, they tend to compete with each other a little bit more on the social dance floor. I myself, as a person who has been following for most of her tango career. I see that very, very often from the outside, or I notice it when I dance with leaders. I notice how they compete with each other, want to be seen and stuff like that. Um, it's something that changes the ambience a little bit, and it can be a super good thing. It can be sometimes a little bit more stressful. In Dos Corazones, it led also again to an ambience that was a little bit more similar to, let's say, a normal encuentro.
Hmm.
Just having a different feeling of the entire event because we've got more guys in there. So um, but it was super, super nice to see that we have so many guys now who have taken up following already. Um, some of them are really working on their skills, what women are doing with the leading skills, of course, all the time. But I think we still have to take a little bit care of guys learning to follow in the next years. They're a little bit behind when it comes to developing their following skills. Many women have taken up leading for many, many years ago now. So for them, it's, let's say, a more normal situation. But for a lot of guys, this is so recent still. Uh, that it's still a little bit harder to actually lead them. But this is a thing that will develop over the next years as guys are now getting into double rolling. They need some time to adapt to the following role as well when they have not done that before. So again, we're in a process of adaptation, and I think formats like Dos Corazones will help, promoting this idea that in general we do not have to be stuck to one role, and that it is a good thing to learn both roles from the beginning and not to delay that for so many years, because it is quite obvious for me that if someone who dances, let's say, 20 years of a leader only or 20 years as a follower, is really hard to get into a mindset of the other role because we are so set in our ways already. But if you do that from the beginning, you will be much more flexible and much more open to both mindsets, and this is something where I would like to get to. As for myself, I mentioned it earlier. Most of these 25 years that I've been teaching, most of the years I've been dancing as a follower in milongas, but I've been teaching both roles. Let's say I've been using both roles in the teaching context all the time. So when I first decided to dance more as a leader in milongas as well, I was not I was not an inexperienced leader because I had done that already as a teacher. But the situation is different, of course, if you have not ever, danced both roles, and you always, you need this time um, after just learning something in class to practice it, to get comfortable dancing on the social dance floor in a relaxed manner without being stressed. And this is just a development that we cannot cut short, it's it's like we have now a new situation, and this new situation needs to be established, and it takes some time to settle that everyone is comfortable enough in both roles, that everyone is comfortable with the process of mirada and cabeceo and creating a nice ronda. All of this takes time, and I'm super excited about the fact that so many people are interested in such formats, and now are co-creating a new community that is more open. I'm super excited about that and happy to contribute there.
Yes, that's what I wanted to say, because this is an important way of contributing to normalization of something like this. And it can, of course, be a bit awkward, for example, with cabeceo. So that's what you said. You have a workshop about the cabeceo thing. But even like I wasn't at the workshop, and I even noticed that there was still a lot of confusion regarding the cabeceo, and yeah.
Yeah, we have a you know, when it comes to Mirada and cabeceo, all of the people in the encuentro community are of course super used to that. But there is one little thing that has to be adapted when you do Mirada and cabeceo in the double role context. And this is of course making the decision who is going to lead, because you know, for us in the encuentro community, it is usually the fact that the follower will stay seated and the leader will stand up, you know. And then, of course, in the encuentro community, and but even more so in the marathon community, where they don't have this form of mirada cabeceo, but that's another question. um, we have mostly women who are leading and women who are following and leading, and guys who are leading, and then of course it's easier for people to process this whole mechanism in the double role community. We suggested to use a different setup, but it depends, of course, on the cooperation of the people. So we suggested that the leader, no matter if the leader is a woman or a man, will stand up and the other person will stay seated. So basically, it's a little bit about who stands up first will be, at least in the first tango, the leading person, because that makes it easy for everyone to settle into one of the roles for the very first minutes, you know, to not have this confusion about, oh my God, what are we going to do? Are you leading? Are you not leading? So this was the general idea. I think it worked okay, but again, we have to work on that still, because sometimes now, of course, at Dos Corazones, we had this moment where, you know, two people would be standing up or two people would be sitting down, and people were a little bit confused. But then let's face it, we're all grown-ups. We can deal with such situations. Even if two people stand up and meet each other on the social dance floor, they can still talk, like say one word, you know, okay, you're going to start to lead or I'm going to start to lead. I don't think that this creates really a big problem. It's just that, of course, with Mirada and Cabeceo, we have not this 100% security about how it's going to go, because we just don't know in the beginning. But I have something really nice that happened to me 2 weeks ago, actually. Um, because I always said that my tango world will only be an ideal tango world when um, the moment I'm inviting a guy to dance, he will not automatically assume that he is going to lead, you know, only when you know there's more openness towards taking both roles, my tango world will be the ideal world. I don't know if it's ever going to happen, but this is some vision that I had. And then 2 weeks ago, I was DJing at a event in Wiesbaden, which is 1.5 hours from here. It's a community where I know most people, and also a lot of people from the encuentro community go there. It's a really super nice event where I was DJing, and on Saturday I was dancing there, and I was seeing a couple who were sometimes changing roles on the social dance floor. And because I liked what they were doing, I decided that I'm going to dance with one of them and maybe float the idea of coming to Dos Corazones or whatever, at least get in touch with these people. So I looked at the guy, because he was sitting when he had heard a nice music play. So I looked at the guy, and he agreed, and he stood up. You know, he stood up and came to me. So I stood up as well, thinking that I'm going to follow. But the moment I approached him, he went into the following position. And that was crazy. That had never happened to me. He stood up, he came to me, but then immediately assumed taking the following role. I really loved this moment because it was such a surprise, and it was like, oh wow, okay, even in, let's say normal encuentro like events, this can already happen to you. It's if you're open to dancing both roles, this is going to happen, and you have nice surprises as well. And then in the end, I was leading the first two tangos, and then we changed roles, and he danced. He led the second two tangos. So that was really nice. And as I said, it happened at a, let's say, normal event, not at a double role event. And this is why I like this idea, because now obviously we're getting to a moment where gender and role is not, fixed, not written in stone anymore. We're getting to a time where things get a little bit more fluid, and I'm super happy about that. That's really nice.
Yes, but it can also be awkward, of course, if you weren't really planning to lead a person.
Yeah, but I mean, he knew that I was a double roller because he had seen me on the dance floor and most likely knew me already. So it was fine, and he coped with the new situation. Of course, when I invite someone on the social dance floor, I usually decide in advance if I want to lead or to follow, because this has to do something with the music for me. This has to do also something with the person I'm dancing with. Some people I rather want to lead, other people I rather want to follow. So I have my preferences. But nevertheless, I think being open to also changing, spontaneously makes us less set in our ways and contributes to a more relaxed and casual ambience as well. Because it's fine to have your preferences. It's fine to have a really defined taste of music and dance style or whatever. But it's also good to still be able to make compromises and to do something that you have not planned, because this is exactly what in the end, if you have these people who go to events of the same sort all the time, and doesn't matter if it's encuentros or marathons or festival, they only go to the same sort event, and they always have the same setup, and everything is set in the same way. People stop being open to new thoughts or new ideas or whatever, any new development. Everything gets very set in their ways, and I think that doesn't only, affect tango, but everything in life. And I think that if we do not develop, if we don't change, then that's not worth anymore. For me, tango and life and everything has to change. There has to be development. There has to be change. And I find it nice when things are changing, even if there are moments if the chaos is a little bit bigger. But that's a part of it. I like that.
Yes. Yeah, so it's combining the good things of the traditions with being open
Exactly.
to, yeah, because I also like it when you have a more milonguero type of setup. But why should
Yes.
we, yeah, all be like sitting separately and a man always leading and like it's just
Yeah,
that's
that's stupid.
depressing.
That's really it's depressing. No, but I mean, for me, there are certain things, certain features about encuentros that are super, super important for me. This is milongas, tandas, and cortinas. This is a social dance floor that has a certain order. Then also, of course, close embrace dancing, traditional music per se. I only go to events where I get this. I don't go to other events because I don't want to dance in open embrace. I don't want to dance to non-tango music or stuff like that. So I want to have a certain set of security, of course, but but I also want to have more openness. And by the way, because I think we are also going to speak in the future about encuentros and how they might develop and stuff like that. Um, when it comes to double rolling and to being open to people who dance the non-gender conforming roles, I think that encuentros are much further than marathons. I've just again, because Detlef was at a marathon last week, and he went to a couple of others, and I also went to some marathons last year. You see rarely uh, women dancing as a leader or men dancing as a follower in marathons. This
Really?
happens. Oh yes, completely,
Even the women?
complete. Oh yes, I mean there are some women who lead, but many less than
Hmm.
in encuentros. Much less. Even even in the very traditional and let's say a little bit more old-fashioned encuentros, even in those encuentros where leaders and followers sit on both sides of the dance floor, even there we have in the encuentros always a big amount of women who are dancing both roles, because this has been from the start. We always had women who were dancing both roles, and it's normal. And now there are more than there used to be, but this was always very normal at in the encuentro community, and even a couple of men who did that very early on already. But in the marathon community, you find it hardly. It's really an exception. It's an exception when you go
Oh,
to a marathon and you see people dancing the non-gender conforming role. So this is one reason for me why I don't like going to marathons so much, because it doesn't work for me. It doesn't work for me as a leader.
yes, yes. Well, keep promoting the encuentros, right? Because
Yeah,
apparently
exactly.
we are cooler.
Yeah, we
So that's
are. We are. People don't think, because as I said, they have this vision of encuentros in their head of, you know, everyone being dressed very formally and all the women with 10 centimeters comme il faut and sitting there stiffly. But this is not the case. Might be the case in some of the events, but every event is different. So it's yes, we are cool.
yes. So maybe one little thing before we wrap up. So you said that at normal encuentros you get the complaining traditional dancers when there's maybe too much double roll. But what did you mean with that?
Okay, at the encuentros, and I guess even more so at marathons, we have a lot of people who really only want to dance with someone of the other gender,
Yeah.
you know, and so it is not enough at these events to have an even number of leaders and followers. No, one needs a certain amount of percentage of male leaders in the room. We cannot just replace them all with female double rollers. For me, the calculation is very easy. We have a certain number of leaders, we have a certain number of followers, and on top, we have the double rollers because they balance each other out. So theoretically, we could do any amount of double rollers on top of leaders and followers. But of course, if we see that most of the double rollers right now are still women, we get many more women, you know. And then we have in the encuentro community, but again, even more so in the marathon community, a lot of women who say, no, I only want to dance with men, and if there are not enough men in the room, then of course they start complaining because they don't want to dance with the female leaders, even though some of them might be much more advanced leaders than the guys. But this is still where we are right now. For a lot of people, this is really super important. Guys, even more so. A lot of guys don't want to dance with another guy. You know that best, huh?
Yes.
It's just still happening, and that's fine, because everyone
Well,
has.
it's not just a lot of guys. It's like 90% or something. So
Exactly. Exactly. I think women are much more open. Guys are not. And so this is where we are right now. And as I said, it's okay to have these preferences, but the thing is that for me as an organizer, that means that at our regular encuentros, we can only accept up to a certain amount of double rollers. They cannot become too dominant in the room. And this is why we have approximately usually 15 to 20% of double rollers. And for a lot of people who go to encuentros or marathons, where you almost have, 50% men, 50% women. This is already too much. There are a lot of people who have stopped coming to our events because women don't want to dance with other women. And some guys nowadays think, okay, now I have to compete with other women as well. And they don't want that. I don't know why, because they have to compete with men. So, but competing with women seems to be more difficult for them. So we already have a couple of people who have stopped coming to our events because we accept double rollers, which is sad, but okay. I mean, people have their preferences. So this is what is happening.
Maybe they should go to marathons from now on because that's their
Exactly.
little paradise. Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. I mean, but I think the world is just changing, or let's say our tango world is changing, and as I said, events will change, and we cannot hold on to one format and one idea for the rest of our tango lives. I would find that very, very boring.
Yes, yes. So if I can play a little bit of devil's advocate here, um, I like, isn't it true that some of these women who register as double rollers then end up wanting to follow a lot because of the like exciting male leaders in the room, and then it's like there's a
Yeah,
competition, extra
yeah.
competition for the.
Mhm. Yeah, that used to happen. That used to happen. I can tell you, I, as an organizer, the first years when we accepted more double rollers in the room, I usually reminded the double rollers, who were mostly women, per mail in advance, listen, you have registered as a double roller, so you should look to it that you are really leading and following to the same amount, okay? Because and I really and in one or two cases where women had then followed much more often than led, where I had the impression, okay, they were actually not that much interested in leading. I actually went to them and told them, listen, this is not okay. You registered as a double roller. So I see it as my job at such an event to see to it that they are actually doing what they have promised. The thing is, the thing is, this was years ago. Now we have the other situation. Now I have to write to these women in advance. Listen, dear double rollers, please follow once in a while as well.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes, because most of the double rollers prefer leading now. So I have
Oh,
to remind them of the opposite.
they prefer leading.
Yes, many do so nowadays. Yes.
Do
Uh,
you have any idea why? Like, I'm
Well,
really
because
surprised by it.
because it's new. I mean, many of them have been dancing as followers for many years. Then they started leading. They see new, exciting, um, possibilities, but also they develop as dancers in both roles. The problem is that a lot of guys, they have not been taking classes, they have not been developing. So many of the guys in encuentros, they get a little less attractive for those double role dancing women,
Yeah, sure.
and so they prefer to lead because they have more fun leading than, adapting to guys who have not been developing for the last 25 years. So so
Yes.
now we are in this other situation that I have to remind them, listen, girls, please, please follow enough. I don't want to have men complaining later that they do not get enough dances because all of you always want to lead all the time. So we're long past the situation
Okay.
where women, abuse the double role to get in as single followers. Past
Okay.
that. Long
Okay.
time. Oh.
Okay. Yeah. So I think we have to wrap it up now. There's a lot of very interesting insights again. So can you maybe repeat some practical information about the third edition that is going to happen in January?
Yeah. Okay, so as I said, Dos Corazones, the third edition, I'm super excited about it. It will take place in Saarbrücken, Germany, which is right at the French border. It will take place on the first weekend of January in 26, and booking starts on October 1, so very soon now.
Yes. So I hope this interview helped you guys, listeners, to get an idea of what this event is all about and why it is so exciting for anyone who's interested in the other role. And I definitely enjoyed the last edition a lot, and it had a really relaxed atmosphere, like you said in the beginning. And yeah, I hope people will come and in the process further develop their own skills in the other role, which is very valuable.
Yes,
Even for your own like main role, if you're even if you're doing mostly for that, it's super, it's enlightening. You become such a better dancer by understanding what the other person
exactly.
does. So thank you, Melina, for this interesting talk. And
Thank you so much.
like you said, we will meet each other again to talk a bit in general about encuentros in an interview, which will be really interesting.
Very soon.
Yes, but for now, goodbye and see each other soon.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.